Imagine a sports team so historically awful that the top manufacturers in the world literally refuse to sell them equipment.
Like they wouldn't even take their money.
Right. They were terrified that just seeing this team using their gear would completely ruin their brand image.
It's wild to even think about.
It is, but that was the actual reality for the British cycling team. I mean, in about a century of Olympic Games, they had managed to win exactly one single gold medal.
Just one.
Just one.
So welcome to today's deep dive. We are exploring Srinath Ramakrishnan's incredibly detailed summary of James Clear's groundbreaking book, Atomic Habits.
A fantastic source to dig into.
Absolutely. And our mission for you today is pretty radical, actually. We want to help you discover how to sort of short-circuit your own brain to effortlessly build good habits and dismantle the bad ones completely without that, that crushing feeling of needing a massive, exhausting life overhaul.
Yeah, nobody wants to completely uproot their entire life.
Exactly. And it all starts with what happened to that terrible cycling team. It really is the perfect case study because the turnaround didn't happen through some massive influx of cash or total teardown of the roster.
Right.
They hired a new performance director named Dave Brailsford, and he brought in this relentless, almost obsessive philosophy called the aggregation of marginal gains.
Aggregation of marginal gain.
Yeah, the entire strategy was simply searching for a tiny, 1% margin of improvement in absolutely everything they did.
And the details from the source material are just wild. We aren't talking about training harder. We are talking about bizarrely small adjustments.
Oh, yeah?
Like they redesigned the bike seats for slight comfort improvements. They literally rubbed alcohol on the tires to get just a fraction more grip on the indoor track.
Which sounds crazy, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
They asked riders to wear electrically heated overshorts to maintain the absolute ideal muscle temperature while riding. They even used biofeedback sensors to monitor how each specific athlete responded to a particular workout.
And they didn't even stop there, which is the crazy part. They tested different massage gels for faster recovery. They taught riders the best way to wash their hands to avoid catching a cold.
Wow.
Yeah, they figured out the specific type of pillow and mattress that led to the best night's sleep for each rider and literally brought them to hotels on the road.
That is dedication.
Right. They just continued to find these overlooked, unexpected areas to improve by just 1%.
And the payoff is what makes this legendary. By stacking all those microscopic changes, British cycling went on to win 60% of the gold medals available at the London Olympics.
60%.
Yeah, and if that wasn't enough, they won the Tour de France 5 times in 6 years.
Which is just unheard of. It beautifully illustrates the mathematical reality of habit change, which really goes against our typical intuition.
How so?
Well, we tend to think massive success requires massive action, but it's actually the accumulation of small 1% improvements that results in significant change over time.
Right, because of the compounding effect.
Exactly. If we look at the math, getting just 1% better each day for 1 year doesn't make you a little bit better. You end up 37 times better by the time the year is done.
37 times better.
Yeah, habits are quite literally the compound interest of self-improvement.
So it's kind of like updating the operating system on your phone.
Oh, that's a good way to look at it.
You plug it in, the screen goes completely black, and for an hour you were just sitting there feeling like absolutely nothing is happening. It feels like a waste of time. But underneath, thousands of tiny lines of code are shifting.
Right.
And then suddenly it reboots and the entire interface is upgraded all at once. The text actually uses an airplane analogy for this, but the core idea is that a tiny shift in direction completely changes the destination.
The airplane analogy is incredibly apt. I mean, if you were flying from Los Angeles to New York and the pilot adjusts the heading by just 3.5 degrees south, a shift so small you wouldn't even feel it in your seat, you don't land in New York.
Right, where do you end up?
You end up hundreds of miles away in Washington, D.C. That tiny 3.5-degree shift is your daily habit. It dictates your life's trajectory.
Wow.
But this brings us to a harsh reality check. Because of the way habits compound, time magnifies the margin between success and failure. Early on, these tiny habits appear to make absolutely no difference.
Right, and that is why this is so deeply frustrating for most of us. You go to the gym for 3 weeks, you look in the mirror, and nothing has changed.
Nothing at all.
Or you study language every night for a month,
Yeah.
and you still can't hold a conversation. The source material calls this the valley of disappointment.
Which occurs because you haven't yet crossed what the author terms the plateau of latent potential. The effort you are putting in isn't being wasted, it is simply being stored.
Okay, let's unpack this. Being stored. So you're saying our early efforts aren't actually failing, we just can't see the pressure building yet.
Exactly. Think about the natural world. A bamboo seed is planted, and it can hardly be seen for the first 5 years.
Just dirt.
Yeah, just dirt. It spends half a decade building an extensive, complex root system completely underground. And then, suddenly, it explodes 90 feet into the air within just 6 weeks.
90 feet in 6 weeks? That is insane.
Or consider human biology. Cancer spends 80% of its life completely undetectable, slowly building up, and then takes over the body in a matter of months.
So it's the human equivalent of geological pressure, like tectonic plates grinding together for millions of years with nothing happening on the surface until the earthquake hits.
There is a quote in the text from the locker room of the San Antonio Spurs that captures this perfectly. It describes a stonecutter hammering away at a rock 100 times without so much as a microscopic crack showing.
Not even a scratch.
Right.
Yeah.
Yet, at the 101st blow, the rock splits in two. It wasn't the last blow that did it. It was the 100 blows that came before.
So if you, the listener, have to wait out this valley of disappointment, if you have to keep hammering the rock without seeing a crack, how do you stay on track without throwing in the towel?
That's the million-dollar question.
The text actually suggests something completely counterintuitive. It says we need to abandon traditional goal setting entirely.
Which is tough, because we live in a deeply outcome-focused culture. But there is a paradigm-shifting concept here. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems.
You fall to the level of your systems.
Yeah, goals are just about the results you want to achieve.
Yeah.
They are useful for setting a direction, but they are entirely useless for actually making progress.
Because if you are a basketball coach, your goal is to win the championship. But every other coach in the league has the exact same goal.
Exactly.
The goal doesn't differentiate the winner from the loser.
The system does. The system is how you recruit players, how you manage your assistant coaches, and how you run practice. True long-term thinking is actually goalless thinking.
Nerveless thinking?
Yeah. When you focus solely on the goal, you are playing a finite game. Once you achieve it, you stop the behavior. How many people train for a marathon, cross the finish line, and then stop running entirely for 6 months?
Oh, I know so many people who have done exactly that. So to understand how to build a system that outlasts the goal, the source material breaks down behavior change into 3 distinct layers.
Like an onion.
Right, imagine an onion. The outer layer is your outcomes. This is what you get: losing 10 pounds, publishing a book, winning a championship. The middle layer is your process.
The actual habits.
Exactly. This is what you do: implementing a new gym routine, organizing your desk. Most of the habits we try to build live right here. But the third, innermost core layer is your identity.
Which is the most important part.
Yeah, this is what you believe: your worldviews, your self-image, your biases.
What's fascinating here is that true behavior change is always identity change. You might start a habit because of sheer motivation or because you want an outcome, but the only reason you will stick with it long term is if it becomes part of your identity.
Because if it doesn't, it just fades away.
Exactly. The biggest barrier to positive change isn't a lack of effort, it's an identity conflict.
Wait, an identity conflict. Give me an example of what that looks like in daily life.
Okay, imagine 2 people trying to quit smoking. Someone offers them a cigarette. The first person says, "No thanks, I'm trying to quit."
It seems like a normal response.
It sounds reasonable, but they still view themselves as a smoker who is trying to do something else. The second person declines and says, "No thanks, I'm not a smoker."
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's completely different.
It's a tiny distinction, but it signals a massive shift in identity. If your actions don't match the person you fundamentally believe you are, you will always self-sabotage to return to your baseline.
So what does this all mean for the listener? How do you actually shift that core belief? I mean, you can't just wake up and magically believe you are a marathon runner if you've never run a mile.
Right, that wouldn't work.
The text explains that every single time you repeat a habit, you are casting a vote for your identity.
It's an evidence-based process. If you write 1 page, you are casting a vote that you are a writer. If you practice the violin for 5 minutes, you are casting a vote that you are a musician.
You're proving it to yourself.
Yes. You aren't born with preset beliefs about yourself. Your identity emerges out of your habits.
The most practical way to change who you are is to simply change what you do. So now that we know we need a system and we know the goal is to cast votes for our identity, we need to look under the hood.
The mechanics of it.
Right. How does the brain actually automate these behaviors?
Neurologically speaking, Every habit follows a four-step feedback loop. Cue, craving, response, and reward.
Cue, craving, response, reward.
Yeah. The cue triggers the brain to initiate a behavior. The craving is the underlying motivational force. The response is the actual habit you perform. And the reward is the end goal that satisfies the craving and teaches your brain whether this action is worth repeating.
And from this neurological loop, the source extracts the 4 laws of behavior change. Let's dig into Law 1. Make it obvious.
Make it obvious.
The text points out that the human brain is essentially a prediction machine. We constantly take in cues unconsciously, and if we want to change, we have to make the unconscious conscious.
There is a brilliant real-world application of this from the source regarding the pointing and calling safety system used by Japanese railway operators.
Oh, this was wild.
Yeah, as they drive the trains, operators physically point at different objects and call out their status aloud. They will point at the speedometer and say, speed is 80. They point at a signal and say, signal is green.
Which sounds completely ridiculous if you're just standing there watching them do it.
It does, but by raising the level of awareness from non-conscious habit to conscious action, it reduces errors by up to 85% and cuts accidents by 30%. You are physically forcing your brain to acknowledge the cue.
To make our own habits obvious, the text introduces a strategy called habit stacking. And to understand why this works, we have to look at something called the Diderot effect.
Yeah, the Diderot effect.
Have you ever gone to a store to buy a new rug for your living room, and once you put it down, you suddenly realize your couch looks terrible next to it?
All the time.
So you buy a new couch. Then the coffee table doesn't match the new couch. It's a spiral of connected consumption.
Human behavior is highly interconnected. We rarely do things in total isolation. You can use this connectedness to your advantage by tying a new habit you want to build directly to a habit you already do every single day.
So instead of saying, I'm going to start meditating more, which is vague and has no cue, you say, after I pour my morning cup of coffee, I will meditate for 1 minute.
The coffee is the obvious cue.
Right. That covers Law 1. Let's move to Law 2, make it attractive, which tackles the craving part of the loop.
Habits are fundamentally driven by a dopamine feedback loop. But here is the critical neurological distinction. It is the anticipation of the reward, not just the fulfillment of it, that gets us to take action.
Anticipation is the key.
Yeah, when we look at evolutionary biology, this makes perfect sense. Early humans needed a massive dopamine spike before they found the berries. Otherwise, they wouldn't have the motivation to walk 5 miles to find the bush in the first place. The greater the anticipation, the greater the dopamine spike.
Knowing that, how do we actually hack that anticipation? Like if I want to build a habit of doing my taxes, there is zero anticipation of reward there. I am not getting a dopamine spike for spreadsheets.
The source suggests a strategy called temptation bundling. It leverages a psychological concept known as pre-max principle, which essentially states that you can use a highly probable behavior, something you love doing, to reinforce a less probable behavior, something you hate doing.
Okay.
You bundle an action you want to do with an action you need to do.
Oh, like only allowing yourself to watch your favorite trashy reality TV show while you are walking on the treadmill.
That's the perfect example.
You need to exercise, you want to watch the show, you bundle them, making the treadmill attractive because you anticipate the show.
Precisely. And when making things attractive, we also have to recognize the immense cultural pull of the tribe. Yeah, we evolved to survive in groups. The culture we live in determines which behaviors are appealing to us. We naturally imitate 3 specific social groups. The close, meaning our family and friends, the many, meaning the broader crowd, and the powerful, meaning those with status.
Right, because standing out used to be dangerous.
Exactly. We will often adopt habits simply to earn approval, because from an evolutionary standpoint, being isolated meant death. Most days, we would actually rather be wrong with the crowd than be right by ourselves.
That explains why it's so incredibly hard to quit drinking if all your friends hang out at a bar every Friday. You don't want to be the odd one out.
Right.
Okay, so recognizing cues and craving the result is great, but we all know people who plan perfectly and never actually do anything. Getting off the couch requires Law 3, make it easy. And this starts with separating motion from action.
This is a trap almost everyone falls into. Motion is strategizing. It is outlining 20 ideas for an article or researching the best running shoes for 3 solid weeks.
Which feels great.
It feels incredibly productive, but it produces no actual result. Action is sitting down and writing 1 paragraph. Action is putting on the shoes and walking around the block. We get stuck in motion because it allows us to feel like we are making progress without running the risk of failure.
Right. As Voltaire noted, the best is the enemy of good.
Exactly.
But wait, I need to push back on this a bit. The text points out that human behavior naturally follows the law of least effort. We naturally gravitate toward the option requiring the least work.
That's true.
But if I want to run a marathon or learn Mandarin, those are inherently difficult things. Doesn't telling people to make their habits easy completely contradict the idea of working hard to achieve a meaningful goal? I mean, how does reading one page of a book actually help me read 50 books a year?
That is a very common objection, but it misunderstands the goal of Law 3. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the objective isn't to avoid hard work. The objective is to make starting the work effortless.
Oh, just the start.
Yes. You have to reduce the friction of the starting line. This leads to the 2-minute rule. When you start a new habit, it must take less than 2 minutes to do. Read before bed becomes read 1 page. Do 30 minutes of yoga becomes take out my yoga mat.
Because you are trying to master the decisive fork-in-the-road moments in your day, just getting over that initial hurdle.
Exactly. You have to standardize a habit before you can optimize it. You literally cannot improve a habit that doesn't exist yet. By making it impossibly easy to start, you are establishing the neural pathway. Once the pathway is there, you can slowly increase the difficulty.
Make it impossibly easy to start. I love that. And then we hit the final step of the loop, Law 4, make it satisfying. This addresses the reward.
The human brain evolved in a return environment where actions led to immediate outcomes.
Like finding food, you eat it right away.
Right. Today, we live in a delayed return environment. You work today, you get a paycheck in 2 weeks. You go to the gym today, you lose weight in a month. But our brains still heavily prioritize immediate rewards. The cardinal rule of behavior change is, what is immediately rewarded is repeated. What is immediately punished is avoided.
So to make a habit stick, especially a really difficult one with a delayed payoff, you need to sort of manufacture a feeling of immediate success.
Yes. The first 3 laws, make it obvious, attractive, and easy, increase the odds you will do the behavior this time. The 4th law, make it satisfying, increases the odds you will repeat it next time.
A great way to do this is using visual habit trackers. Benjamin Franklin famously carried a small booklet to track 13 virtues. Every time he succeeded, he marked an X.
It's so simple but effective.
Yeah, you literally get a dopamine hit just from marking an X on a calendar. It creates visual proof of your votes for your new identity. You adopt the mantra, don't break the chain, and if you slip up, never miss twice.
But there is a hidden trap with tracking, isn't there? A very dangerous one, actually, captured by Goodhart's law. It states, when a measure becomes a target, it ceases to be a good measure.
Ceases to be a good measure.
Right. The dark side of tracking is that we become consumed by the metric rather than the purpose behind the habit. Think about step counters on smartwatches. People will walk in circles around their living room at 11:30 p.m. just to hit 10,000 steps.
I have definitely done that.
We all have. But they aren't doing it for their health anymore. They are doing it to serve the number. Measurement is only useful when it guides you, not when it consumes you.
All right, so we've built this incredibly robust system for good habits. We've made the cues obvious, the cravings attractive, the actions easy, and the rewards satisfying. But what about the other side of the coin? How do you dismantle a bad habit? Doom scrolling at 2 a.m., eating junk food when you are stressed.
You simply invert the 4 laws. To break a bad habit, you make the cue invisible-like. If you spend too much time on your phone, you live in another room. You make the craving unattractive by consciously reframing your mindset to highlight the benefits of avoiding the behavior. You make the response difficult by increasing the friction. And you make the reward unsatisfying by using accountability partners or habit contracts where there is an immediate consequence for failure.
The ultimate example of making a bad habit difficult through friction is a commitment device. The source points to a fantastic piece of history, Ritty's incorruptible cashier.
Oh, the cash register.
Yeah, before the modern cash register was invented, employee theft was rampant in stores. Why? Because the cash was just sitting in an open drawer. It was just too easy. James Ritty invented a machine that locked the cash and receipts inside after every transaction. It physically required the manager's key to open.
The brilliance of Ritty's invention was that it automated ethical behavior by making stealing practically impossible. By increasing the friction, you remove the option to rely on willpower entirely.
Now, we've talked about all these systems, but the text throws a massive curveball near the end. Okay, let's unpack this. Here's where it gets really interesting. You can build the perfect system, you can have flawless habits, but hard work actually isn't enough on its own. You have to pick the right field of competition.
Genetics play a profound, often ignored role in our success. Genes provide a powerful advantage in favorable circumstances and a serious disadvantage in unfavorable ones.
Sure.
Like, being 7 feet tall is an incredible genetic gift if you want to play basketball, but it is a massive hindrance if you want to be an Olympic gymnast.
The source breaks this down using the big five personality traits: openness to experience, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. The advice is to align your habits with your specific genetic predispositions.
It makes a lot of sense.
Let's make this real. Imagine two people trying to build a fitness habit. One is highly extroverted, the other is deeply introverted.
Right. If the extrovert tries to build a habit of lifting weights completely alone in the silent basement, they will likely fail. They thrive on social energy, so their ideal habit would be joining a bustling CrossFit class.
What about the introvert?
The introvert might find that class incredibly draining. For them, the sustainable habit is a solitary trail run in the woods.
You have to play a game that favors your strength. And there is a quote here that completely reframes this. If you cannot find a game that favors you, create one. Genes don't eliminate the need for hard work. They just clarify what you should be working hard on.
And this naturally brings us to the path of true mastery. Because as habits become routine, they require less brain activity. You can do them on autopilot.
Which is the goal, right?
It is, but there's a downside to this automation. You stop paying attention to little errors. You assume you're improving simply because you're gaining experience, but you might just be reinforcing a flawed habit. The equation for true expertise is habits plus deliberate practice equals mastery.
The Los Angeles Lakers had a legendary system for this called the CBZ, or Career Best Effort Program. Players weren't just asked to practice every day. They were asked to constantly reflect, review, and improve their specific output by just 1% over the season. It was about meticulously fine-tuning the habit.
To sustain that level of fine-tuning, you have to continually achieve a flow state. And to hit that state, you follow the Goldilocks rule.
The Goldilocks rule.
Yeah, the human brain loves a challenge, but only if it is right on the edge of your current abilities. If you play tennis against a toddler, you get bored. If you play against Serena Williams, you get discouraged.
Right.
The sweet spot for tasks is roughly 4% beyond your current capacity.
Not so hard that you quit, not so easy that you get bored.
Hmm.
Which brings us to the final boss, really. Boredom.
Yes, the text makes a striking claim. The greatest threat to success is not failure, but boredom.
Boredom, not failure.
Exactly. Anyone can work hard when they feel motivated or inspired. But what differentiates the absolute best performers from everyone else? It's the ability to handle the mind-numbing boredom of doing the exact same chores day in and day out. You have to fall in love with boredom. Professionals stick to the schedule, regardless of their mood. Amateurs let life get in the way.
So success is not a goal to reach. It is not a finish line to cross. It is an endless system to refine. The holy grail of habit change isn't one massive overnight shift. It is 1,000 atomic habits stacking up, each one adding a tiny grain of sand to the positive side of the scale, slowly and visibly tilting your life in your favor.
It is a continuous, lifelong cycle of compounding improvement.
We talked today about how your habits cast votes for your identity, which means the person you are right now listening to this is the result of thousands of unconscious votes cast by your past self.
It's a powerful thought.
So take a hard look at your life today. What is one tiny invisible habit you started a decade ago that is secretly dictating your reality right now? And if you change that one habit today, who could you be a decade from now? Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.
Until next time, keep refining your systems.